Hello and welcome to the video. My name is Wade Smith, and this video is about a slightly lighter and humorous topic, and maybe a serious topic at the same time. And I'm addressing myself to Dr. Michio Kaku, or anyone who's read this book by Dr. Michio Kaku. I believe it's called Science of the Mind. It's sitting on my desk right over there. And I read some of the book, but never finished reading the book because I found it quite offensive, and also, even though I have a verbal IQ well above 100, uh, I found that I did not know enough Greek and Latin words to read some entire pages where he seems to simply be quoting every Greek and Latin word he ever heard of, whether or not he even knows the definition of it, and whether or not anybody knows the translation or definition of it. Because I tried searching for some of them and I could not find them online with any tool that I know of. And so I don't know if he just made up some words or what, or if I'm just that bad at foreign language that I know about 2,000 Greek and Latin medical terms. Um, but I don't recognize any of those words, and I'm like, what in blazes is he even talking about? And what is the point of writing an entire page filled with Greek and Latin medical terms, supposedly medical terms, that I'm pretty sure nobody is going to know what they mean? So, answer me this, Dr. Kaku. Are those real medical words, or did you just make up some bullshit to take up an extra page in the book? That's a serious question because I couldn't find any evidence that those are real words. And, also, why is a physicist discussing writing an entire novel-sized book about the mind when he's not a medical doctor? Just stick to string theory. And by the way, string theory is BS anyway. You have absolutely no evidence that there's more than one universe in reality. So postulating a an infinite or nearly infinite number of universes to try to explain away the anthropic principle of this universe is complete nonsense. You haven't simplified anything. Instead of believing in one true creator God, you're now believing in an infinite number of infinite paradoxes. And you still haven't solved the problem of where any of it came from. So I don't believe in string theory at all. I don't believe in multiverse theory. Because as Carl Sagan put it, the term cosmos means everything that is and was and will be, which ironically, that's actually almost a biblical quote because in the Bible it refers to God Almighty, which is and was and will be. But Carl Sagan referred to cosmos, the universe, as everything that is and was and will be. So you don't need the hypothesis of multiple universes. And it's not even a real hypothesis because the problem with a hypothesis is a hypothesis needs to agree with established law, whereas conjecture is something that does not agree with established law. A hypothesis is something that agrees with established law but is not yet proven. Conjecture is when you make a statement that disagrees with established law and then try to claim that it's true, such as multiverse theory. Because by definition of the term, there's only one cosmos. And there's only one reality. There's not multiple realities. That makes no sense. Oh, incidentally, supposedly fundamental particles having dual spin, i.e., spin up and spin down simultaneously, is not evidence of superposition, nor is it evidence of any kind of quantum paradox or anything like that. You know what that's evidence of? I found that the only way to model that inside a computer is to have one bit represent an upspin and another bit represent a downspin. You can't have one bit represent both an up and a down. And in the real world, the spin is supposed to be angular momentum. And it can't have positive angular momentum and negative angular momentum at the same time, because then that would add up to zero. So then the question is, how does it have both up and down spin at the same time? The only way that's possible is if the particle is not fundamental. The only way that's possible is if the particle in question is not fundamental, but is in fact made up of even smaller parts. So chew on that, Michio Kaku. Quarks are not fundamental, and protons are not fundamental, and electrons are not fundamental, and I bet photons are not fundamental, because photons are pretty complicated. And I can prove that some photons have zero spin and some photons actually have a fractional spin, because it's impossible for a rotating body to emit a zero spin photon. The photon has to have a fractional spin when it comes off the surface of a rotating body, such as the sun or the earth. Anyway, I'd love to debate you because, you're incredibly enlightened in some areas and yet you're paradoxically ignorant and self contradictory in other areas of science and reason. And for a gentleman that's supposedly so smart and gets all these accolades in science and physics and whatnot, uh, I don't understand how you can resort to using fake medical terms in one of your book and then get away with it because nobody else is smart enough to call you out on your bullshit.